It's coming out this week. It's coming out this week. Muppets Most Wanted is coming out this week and it's gonna be amazing! And you know what? There has been so much promotion for this film that I can't even keep track anymore. Literally right after the premiere on the 11th, there have been new ads, interviews, and special online episodes of The Muppets popping up everywhere, every day, that honestly, it would probably take an entire day just to watch everything. But if you want, you can surely try. Probably my favorite promotion so far has been their appearance on BuzzFeed as interns. Incredibly silly, I know, but that's kind of why I love it. And guess who has 2 thumbs and already got to see a final cut of the film? This girl did, that's who! And of course, I don't want to give anything away, but if you are a Muppet fan, you are going to love this film. After the rough cuts I saw, there were a few changes here and there, but it's pretty much what I predicted it would be, which is an awesome Muppet film. And I am very, very pleased with the final product. If you want, feel free to let me know what you think of the movie in the comments below after you see it. But before we see Muppets Most Wanted, why don't we talk about the prequel to the film first? In 1999, when Muppets from Space came out, it didn't go over so well at the box office, and if you watched my last review, you know why. So with their popularity significantly lower than it had been in the past, it looked like the Muppets would no longer get a chance to appear on the big screen. However, a few years later, they did make a television movie called It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas, and a straight-to-DVD film called Kermit's Swamp Years. They were both stupid, let's move on. Then in 2004, the Jim Henson Company decided to finally turn over the ownership of the Muppets to the Walt Disney Company, as Jim Henson had originally planned to do 14 years prior. So with the Jim Henson Company no longer overseeing them, it was now up to Disney to try to revive the franchise. The first major project came in 2005, when Disney produced the made-for-TV film The Muppets Wizard of Oz, starring pop singer Ashanti. It was also incredibly stupid, but moderately successful. A couple years later, at the end of 2008, the Muppets starred in another Christmas TV movie called A Muppet Christmas: Letters to Santa. That one I actually kind of liked, but again, moderately successful. Finally, things started looking up when in 2009, the Muppets began to take advantage of the online video craze and starred in a parody video of Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. It immediately went viral, and from there they began to star in a lot more online videos, making the internet generation more aware of the Muppets and boosting their popularity ever so slightly. That same year, celebrity actor and longtime Muppet fan Jason Segel and his writing partner Nick Stoller were finally given the green light by Disney to start production on a theatrical Muppet film that they co-wrote together. And it was about time, because by the time the film was released in 2011, it had already been 12 years since the release of the last film. 12 years! I mean, 12 years! That's the longest gap between any theatrical Muppet film ever. So, yeah, clearly if they were gonna have a future, Disney was gonna have to start reviving them like right now. They went into production in Hollywood, and before long, they were ready to release the film a year later that would ultimately start the big relaunch of the long-running family-friendly franchise. And they had a lot of options for naming the movie, but ultimately, they went with the simplest of titles for naming a brand new Muppet film. So like I was saying, this movie came out in 2011, and I'm just going to come right out and say it. The whole point of this particular film was to help reintroduce the Muppets to a brand new generation of unfamiliar audiences, especially to kids who more than likely had yet to see any Muppet-related media. But what's interesting is, as a Disney movie, it didn't just play off to appeal to kids, it also equally played off to appeal to adults as well. And surprisingly, in a really smart and sincere way. Jason Segel himself stated that the Muppets were his first love in comedy, and as a lifelong fan, he wanted to take part in producing a new Muppet film in order to bring the Muppets back to the mainstream and to let them be enjoyed by the world once again. Now, I want to make one thing perfectly clear. I do not like this movie. I'm gonna repeat that again. I do not like this movie. I love this movie! And OMG, how can you not love this movie? It has everything you could want in a Muppet film. All your favorite characters, a good story, really witty humor, toe-tapping music, a lot of new but workable scenarios that the characters get themselves into, and all around, you can't help but just walk away feeling so good once you've watched it. I mean, this was me when I first went to see the movie. Oh yeah, I like the Muppets a lot. I mean, I used to watch them all the time when I was a kid, so this is kind of cool that they have a new movie finally, so yeah, let's go check it out, why don't we? Come on, let's go. Oh my god, that movie was so good! I can't believe it's making me feel this way! I feel so sentimental and so good! It was so funny and oh my gosh, I'm so happy that they're back! And what really surprised everyone was that the reviews of the movie were overly positive with a 96% rating on the Rotten Tomatoes site, which was a higher rating than any Muppet film in history. And it ended up grossing more money than any Muppet film to date as well, making more than 3 times its original budget. Wow. So, yeah, you might be wondering to yourself, what exactly is it about this movie that made it so good that it brought the Muppets back into the limelight again? Well, I'm glad you asked. Let's take a look at The Muppets and find out. So the story begins about a little Muppet-like character by the name of Walter, who grew up and lives in a place called Small Town, USA, with his brother/best friend, Gary.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking. We could be twins.
Don't ask how that's supposed to work. It's not meant to be taken that seriously. We learn that although Walter has had a really good childhood, he has always felt like an outsider and like he never truly fit in with the rest of the people in his town.
Even the sunniest days can have a few clouds in them.
Aww.
It's the Muppet Show with our very special guest star, Mr. Steve Martin.
But then his life becomes more fulfilling when he and Gary discover...
I found them. The Muppets.
So as you can probably tell, the main focus of this film is going to be on Walter, the brand new character on the block who has been a fan of the Muppets his whole life, due to the fact that he not only loves everything that's wonderful about them, but also because he feels just like a Muppet himself.
And they made all the difference.
Now, I'm just gonna be really honest with you. The first time that I saw this movie, Walter kind of weirded me out a little bit. But, okay, just hear me out. When I first saw this movie, I guess the whole idea of the focus being on a fan of a franchise within the universe of a franchise, it was just a little odd to me. Don't get me wrong, as a big fan of a lot of franchises, I completely respect mega fans and the way that they center their lives around the things that they love. But I guess at first the whole idea just sounded like the equivalent of a Star Wars fan in the universe of Star Wars. It's weird, awkward, and it doesn't even make sense. But when I thought more about it, the Muppets have always been famous for cleverly breaking the fourth wall and or thinking outside the box in a really creative way. And there had never been a Muppet film that was directly tied to the original Muppet Show, so they just might be able to pull this off. And believe me, I really don't think I would have liked Walter nearly as much as I do now if it weren't for the performer that's behind him. The puppeteer chosen to perform Walter is longtime Sesame Street Muppeteer Peter Lintz. He's puppeteered several characters on Sesame Street over the past 20 plus years, but aside from this role, you'd probably most recognize him as the performer of Theo from Between the Lions, and Tutter from Bear in the Big Blue House. Oh, and you may recognize him as that one beach hippie from Muppets from Space.
Wait a second. I believed you, man. Yeah.
And I swear, you will never find a kinder, more genuine, and more sincere voice that fits Walter's likable personality than Peter's does.
You give people the greatest gift that can ever be given.
And of course, while watching the film, I did eventually warm up to Walter's personality, but it's not just because of Peter's performance. I'll tell you why in a few minutes. Some odd years go by, and Walter has grown up not aging a day since childhood, both inside and out, as it would seem. And his brother Gary apparently grew up to be Jason Segel.
Gary, I think it is so cool you're taking Mary to Los Angeles.
I know. Yeah, she wanted to do something special for this anniversary, and she's always wanted to see Los Angeles.
Hey, don't forget to send me a postcard from the Muppet Studios.
I'm sorry. I can't do that, Walter.
But, Gary...
Because you're coming with us!
Oh, Gary! Well, but what about Mary?
She's fine. She said the more the merrier.
So it looks like Walter's dream of meeting the Muppets is finally about to come true.
Very real
Muppet
country.
Studios, I can't believe it!
Everything is great. Everything is grand. I got the whole wide world in the palm of my hand.
Alright, I'm going to take a minute to address the director of the film because he really does play an important key point in this movie. Besides the fact that he's a director. The movie was directed by British writer and producer James Bobin, who is especially famous for his involvement in The Ali G Show and The Flight of the Conchords show. He never directed any theatrical films before this one, but as you can see, most of his work comes from a background in working in satire television and quirky comedy type shows. I don't know how Disney figured that this guy would be the best choice to direct a new Muppet film, but they really could not have picked a better person for the job. What's wonderful about this movie and Bobin's direction is that it's one of the first Muppet films in a really long time to really grab the satire that they had in the first two Muppet films. And let's face it, those are the two that we most associate with the original atmosphere of The Muppet Show, and that's exactly what this one does as well. The intro song especially demonstrates this because it's incredibly over the top and in your face, but it's also really, really impressive. Not to mention, it's just downright happy.
Life's a piece of cake with someone to give.
And someone to be king.
Life's a piece of pie
With someone to wash, and someone to dry.
Life's an easy road.
With someone beside you to share the load.
Life is full of highs.
with someone to stir
And someone to fry.
You really can't help but have a great big smile on your face the entire time you watch this sequence. And this is pretty much the point when you know this is going to be a really fun film.
I've got everything that I need.
Right in front of me. Sorry.
All right, Carlos, flip the ignition. And that is how you fix a 12-volt starter.
So Gary's girlfriend Mary, played by Amy Adams, is a school teacher who specializes in teaching shop and fixing cars. Okay. And although she's excited about their trip to Los Angeles, it's pretty obvious that she's not overly thrilled with Walter coming with them. Not because she dislikes Walter, but because she'd prefer to have a little more alone time with Gary. Still, as patient as she is, they get on the bus headed for Los Angeles, and once they arrive, they immediately get off to take a tour of the Muppet Studios.
What happened to this place?
In an unexpected turn, the Muppet Studios appear to be in shambles, and the Muppets in general have long been forgotten by the rest of the world. When the tour group comes across Kermit the Frog's old office, Walter decides to sneak off to get a good look at it for himself. And like I was talking about before, this is that moment when I finally softened up to Walter, and you'll see why when you see his reaction to the office. I understand now. This is just a moment when nostalgia completely kicks in because Walter's reaction is the exact same reaction that many people who grew up with the Muppets had. I finally understood that Walter is not just a Muppet geek, but he also represents the genuine love for the Muppets that so many of us already have or had. You really get the sense that the Muppets are Walter's safe haven from growing up in a place where he didn't always feel like he fit in. And that's an incredibly relatable trait that we don't see in a lot of movies. It's a little cheesy when you think about it, but at the same time, you can't help but get sentimental watching Walter just light up at the sight of everything that is the Muppets.
Your fans never left you. The world hasn't forgotten. All you need to do is show them again.
You're alright, little guy. I'm sorry I thought that you were weird. But then a minute later, Statler and Waldorf come in, accompanied by oil tycoon Tex Richmond and his henchmen, played by Uncle Dudley and Bobo the Bear. Yay, Bobo! We find out that Tex Richmond, played by Chris Cooper, is interested in purchasing the Muppet Studios. But why exactly?
I've loved the Muppets since I was a boy. Mm-hmm. And what better way to honor the Muppets than to make this beautiful studio a Muppet museum?
And for whatever the reason, Statler and Waldorf are overseeing the real estate sales of the studio and explain that the Muppets' contract is about to expire, which means that anyone is now liable to purchase the property.
With one minor exception. If the Muppets can raise the $10 million it would cost to buy the building before this contract expires, then they get their studio back.
You know, if I didn't know better, I'd say you were reciting some sort of an important plot point.
See what they did there? But then...
There's oil under this studio. In 2 weeks, we tear this place to the ground and start drilling.
Now, you may be thinking to yourself that this is a pretty silly and cliche villainous subplot, but since you've already got the sense that the movie is pretty aware of itself, that's kind of why it works. It's very much played for laughs and not meant to be taken too seriously. I mean, Chris Cooper also plays his role in a pretty serious straight man level, but then you know it's all for the sake of humor when he does this.
Well, it looks like the joke's about to be on them. Maniacal laugh. Maniacal laugh. Maniacal laugh. Maniacal laugh.
Oh my god, he's about to have a fanboy freakout!
Walter!
So once Walter finally calms down, he immediately tells Gary and Mary what he just heard, and they decide the best thing to do is to find Kermit and warn him about Tex Richmond's evil plan.
How do we find Kermit? Nobody's seen him in years.
What? Stop the car! I've got an idea.
This is delicious. Great idea, Walter.
So yeah, the great thing about the comedy in this movie is that it's very, very similar to the kind that the Muppets became famous for in the 1970s. I don't want to give too much of it away since there's a lot of great comical surprises in this film, but I will say that this is one of the first Muppet films in a long time where the comedy is just top-notch throughout the entire movie. It's quick and clever, and the jokes are pretty much right on top of each other. And it's also incredibly refreshing because this movie doesn't rely on pop culture references like the films and specials that came before it. That is, until they poke fun at pop culture directly, which they do quite a bit in this film, and it's very funny. Sometimes the humor is self-aware, sometimes it's unpredictably witty, and it also has a good dosage of physical humor as well. But either way, it's all genius. When Gary, Mary, and Walter think they may have possibly found Kermit the Frog's house, guess who happens to appear?
Guys, I think there's somebody coming.
Yeah, excuse me. You okay? That was quite a tumble.
After Walter recovers from his concussion, the trio finally gets the chance to warn Kermit about Tex Richmond's evil plan.
How can I help you guys?
Yes? How about the fact that you're Kermit the Frog and you're like totally awesome and amazing?
No! I mean...
I think what Walter's trying to tell you is that Tex Richmond has a secret plan to tear down the theater and drill for oil.
What?
The only way to save the studio is to raise $10 million.
$10 million? I mean, the only way to raise that kind of money would be to put on a show. I haven't seen the old gang in a long, long time. Is there more I could have said?
Wait. Kermit, are you about to get all sentimental on us?
Now they're only pictures in my head.
Okay, now I personally adore this song because it displays Kermit's inner pain of not having performed with his friends for so many years, and for also feeling guilty that he couldn't do anything else to help them.
If we could do it all again. Just another chance to entertain.
This song is beyond depressing, like up there with the saying goodbye song depressing. And a lot of people have complained that Kermit gets too sad and it's very unlike him. But to me, no matter how positive a person can be, I do think that we all have our breaking points in one way or another. And really, what could be worse for Kermit than feeling like he let all of his friends down?
Is there more I could have said? Now they're only pictures in my head.
Not much else to say except it's an unexpected emotional turn in the film that will definitely get you sentimental for our little green friend, and we can only hope that it will soon turn out for the better.
Now they're only pictures in my head.
But with some further encouragement from his friends, Kermit and the trio decide to set off to find the rest of the Muppets and put on a show that will save the studio. They find Fozzie in Reno, who's been performing with a Muppets imitation group called the Muppets.
They're terrifying me, let's go.
Let's go.
Gonzo and Camilla, who have been running a successful plumbing magnet business. And they even managed to find Animal, who's been in anger management rehab.
In control.
And of course, through a fun montage, they managed to find the rest of the Muppets all over the country and convince them all to come back to take part in the show. But wait, aren't they missing someone?
Where's...
All good.
Miss...
All done here.
Piggy.
Kermit, we're going to get Miss Piggy, right?
Okay, you're right. We'll go get Piggy.
They find Miss Piggy all the way in Paris as she's been working as an editor for Vogue magazine. Props to you, girl. But they soon realize that convincing her to come back is not going to be as easy as they hoped.
Last time we were together, I said some things I regret.
No, Kermit, you were just being honest. You never intended to marry me.
Not even after I built us a house where we could raise tadpoles and grow old together.
Well, who do you think's been looking after that house all these years, huh?
Holy snap! When did the relationship between Kermit and Miss Piggy become so mature? Okay, I know the whole idea of a complicated relationship between a frog and a pig is silly, but you know that it's always been hilarious or touching on some sort of level. And you really can't help but get especially invested in their relationship here because they really do sound like two adults talking to one another.
Piggy, why do you have to always be so overdramatic about things? You know, it leaves me no choice but to do things that hurt you.
I am who I am. Why can't you accept that about me?
Look, this is not about you and me.
It's never about you and me, is it?
So in 2002, Frank Oz, who was Miss Piggy's original performer, decided to retire from performing as a puppeteer, and very rarely does he practice it anymore. On occasion, yes, but not often, unfortunately. So when he left, another longtime Sesame Street puppeteer, Eric Jacobson, stepped in and became responsible for performing most of Frank Oz's characters. And much like Steve Whitmire's recreation of Kermit, Eric's performance of Miss Piggy is a little different, but it would be really hard to tell if you weren't made aware of it. He pretty much did a perfect job of recreating the character and turning her into the Miss Piggy that I've always personally admired. She's vulnerable, self-centered, and a diva, and she obviously still loves Kermit very deeply, but at the same time, she's now willing to put her foot down if Kermit isn't willing to give her what she wants.
You can't even say, I need you, can you?
Piggy,
I'm sorry, Kermit, but I have a life here. A life I've made for myself.
In the last couple of years, she has become a much stronger character. And what's beautiful about this movie is that now Kermit is the one who has to fight for her, which is really something we haven't seen very much. And it becomes clear that he really does have feelings for her too, but he's still as stubborn as he always was, which of course complicates things even more.
We'll just have to come up with something else.
Aw, you guys! Back in the States, the Muppets meet with a network executive, played by Rashida Jones, who after a hesitant meeting, decides to give the Muppets a time slot and let them have their telethon to save the studio, on the condition that they find a celebrity host. They visit the old theater and clean it up via music, as Walter reminds them to do.
You're the Muppets! You do this to music!
Well, all right!
We built this city! We built this city! We built this city!
But then Kermit finds himself in trouble because he's unable to find a celebrity host. But on a positive note, Walter suddenly finds himself officially being welcomed into the group.
And welcome aboard. Night, everybody. Just sleep anywhere you can find a spot.
Welcome aboard.
Kermit also tries to replace Miss Piggy with a shady knockoff.
Hey, anybody got any kerosene? I want to take these old pig dresses out back and burn them.
Hold it right there, sausage snout!
Yay!
Oh, look, an omelet station!
Oh, where?
There's only one Miss Piggy, and she is moi.
Kermit doesn't get a lot of luck, though, as Miss Piggy refuses to work with him.
I'm already doing a duet with my new dance partner.
Hola.
And the rehearsals don't go so well either.
And if you like that one, what's the bear capital of the world? Moscow!
What's the problem?
We can't keep time without the drums, man. We need drums. Sorry, Animal.
No drums! No drums! Jack Black said no drums!
Animal, heel.
Finding no other workable option, Kermit decides to talk to Tex Richmond himself about getting the studio back.
Yeah, it would certainly mean a lot to us.
Well, Mr. the Frog, let me see. I'm Tex Richmond, Mr. Texas T. People call me rich cause I got more money. I got more cheddar than some supersized nachos. Got cash flow like Robert has De Niro.
Okay, while this obnoxious number is going on, why don't we talk about the music in the film? With the exception of Pictures in My Head, which was written by these guys, the music of the film was written by film composer Christoph Beck, and the rest of the original songs were written by Brett McKenzie, who had also worked with James Bobin on Flight of the Conchords. What's great about the songs in this film is that they're very different from each other and vary in genres, but they are all very appropriate for the moment that calls for them. Sometimes they're over the top, sometimes they're emotional, sometimes both, and sometimes they just come out of nowhere, but in a good way. And probably the most famous of these songs is the genius and hilarious Man or Muppet.
Am I a Muppet? Muppet. Or am I a man?
Am I a man?
If I'm a man, that makes me a Muppet of a man.
A Muppet of a man.
And the best part, when Man or Muppet became nominated for an Academy Award, the movie not only became the 4th Muppet film to be nominated,
Brett McKenzie for Man or Muppets, the Muppets,
but actually became the first to win an award as well.
I grew up in New Zealand watching the Muppets on TV. Never dreamed I'd get to work with them.
Some complain that a few of the songs are too short, like Me Party and this song, Let's Talk About Me, but they're still pretty funny and don't change the fact that all the songs are set up incredibly well.
Little Muppets, time to give up your dream. The answer is no.
Well, you could have just said that.
Unable to convince Tex Richmond to give them the studio back, Kermit has no choice but to deliver the bad news.
I couldn't get us a celebrity host.
Oh, no!
Well, gee, Kermit, if it's that much of a problem, then why don't you just ask one of the gajillion celebrities that appear in this film? Seriously, something else we haven't seen in a Muppet film in quite a while? There is a slew of celebrity cameos in this film, and just about every one of them is a quick drive-by appearance, each appropriately fitting the roles that they play. Appearances are made by Emily Blunt, Leslie Feist, Alan Arkin, Dave Grohl, Neil Patrick Harris, Mickey Rooney, Zach Galifianakis, Ken Jeong, Sarah Silverman, Donald Glover, Kristen Schaal, Whoopi Goldberg, Selena Gomez, and Rico Rodriguez, among many others.
Are you one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Yes, I am, and let me show you how you can help.
And I think the best is when we see Jack Black as Animal's anger management sponsor, and we think that's all we'll see of him, but nope. He comes back later in the film as an involuntary guest host of the Muppet Show Telethon.
Somebody, anybody, please call the police. This is real rough.
Man, this 3D is incredible.
This is real!
So when the Muppets finally start the telethon, it basically goes back to the same way that the Muppet Show was, in a vaudeville style with an assortment of acts and sketches, and even recreating the opening number.
It's time to play the music. It's time to light the lights. It's time to meet the Muppets on the Muppet Show tonight.
And Tex Richmond is also there to try to sabotage the broadcast, but luckily the Muppets very, very slowly start growing an audience throughout the night, and very, very slowly start getting the money that they need. We get some funny moments with the acts, sketches, and musical numbers, but then at a critical moment while talking to Gary and Mary, Kermit suddenly realizes that if he doesn't say something soon, he's probably going to lose Miss Piggy forever. Which then leads to probably the most romantic and surprisingly most adult moment between Kermit and Miss Piggy ever.
I guess I'm not that good at saying this kind of stuff.
Yes, Kermit?
But you'll have to actually watch the movie to see what they say.
Why are there so many songs about rainbows? And what's on the other side?
Now, one of my personal favorite parts of this film is that they actually revived their most iconic song, Rainbow Connection, which, if you remember, was made famous for appearing in the first Muppet movie. And if you think the nostalgia is heavy already, just wait until you watch this scene.
So we've been told, and some choose to believe it.
I know they're wrong, wait and see.
And there's one part in particular that completely gets me emotional every time I watch this movie.
Someday we'll find it. The rainbow connection. The lovers, the dreamers, and me.
And that just about does it for me. Watching the Muppets hold hands as a family, taking a great leap of faith, knowing that this is the moment that could completely make or break them, I just lost it when I saw this. And I'm going to stop here from giving anything else away because you really do need to experience the comedy, music, and emotional journey that the Muppets go on by watching this movie firsthand. The rest of the film does have a few twists, turns, and surprises, so if you want to see what happens, you'll just have to watch the movie to find out.
Someday we'll find it. The rainbow connection. The lovers, the dreamers, and me.
There's really not a whole lot more I can say about this film except it's just a wonderful, wonderful movie that really brought the Muppets back to life again. And what's great about it is it didn't just make us fall in love with the Muppets, it brought us back to why we love the Muppets. The humor, the unique, lovably zany characters, the satiristic style, the bad and clever jokes that only they can get away with, the memorable music, the unexpected ways that their emotional journeys can touch us so deeply. And it's really the first time in a very, very long time that there has been a Muppet film like this one. The plot is simple and silly at times, but that's exactly what it's meant to be. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and at the moments that it does, it is always the perfect time to do so. It's very self-aware and has a lot of great inside jokes to it, but it's also fresh and entertaining for anyone who's not familiar with the Muppets. It's a very quirky and sweet movie, and it surprisingly has a lot of heart to it, which I think a lot of Muppet films have missed out on in the past. And one big thing I admire about this film is that it does not at all focus on the fact that the Muppets are unhappy because they're no longer famous. It instead focuses on the fact that they miss being able to entertain and make people happy, which makes you feel for the characters even more. It has a great uplifting message about finding the group you feel most at home with, and Walter's character is an incredibly welcome new addition to the Muppet cast, and to this day is considered a viable part of the franchise. In the grand scheme of things, The Muppets may not be the best Muppet film ever, but you know, it still comes really darn close. But that's why it's so perfect, because in so many ways, the movie was meant to reintroduce the franchise to a new generation, but it also ended up reintroducing those who grew up with the franchise as well. If you haven't seen it yet, you are seriously missing out. Pick up a copy of the film for yourself, and if possible, buy 2 or 3 more to share with your friends. Because this movie is quite honestly a perfect introduction for any future Muppet fans. And speaking of picking up a copy, here's my unshameful plug about the Blu-ray and its details. Oh my goodness, where do I even start with this movie and all of its extra features? So since this is a recent release, there is a much longer list of extra features that they included, but I unfortunately don't have time to cover all of them. There's deleted scenes, several behind-the-scenes features, audio commentary, a screen test, bloopers, more spoof trailers, and if you get the Waka Waka edition, you can also get a copy of the soundtrack. And one revolutionizing feature is the Disney intermission, where if you pause the movie, some clips of the Muppets will appear while the movie is paused. Whoa, trip fest much? Now the only complaint that I have with the features is that there are no interviews with the puppeteers, nor does the Blu-ray really acknowledge that they even exist. I know Disney probably doesn't want to break the illusion for some people, but it's not like we don't know that these characters are puppets, so I think it's really sad that the performers that bring the characters to life are hardly given any credit where credit is well deserved. So I'm hoping the next movie will acknowledge them on the Blu-ray release, but for now, mine is not talking about the puppeteers. Everything about this copy is wonderful, and I think you'd be doing yourself a favor to get a copy. Well guys, believe it or not, we made it. We actually managed to cover every single theatrical Muppet film before the release of Muppets Most Wanted, which comes out on Friday. I know the release dates of these reviews have been pretty random over the last 7 months, but I also really do appreciate everyone for their patience because as much as I would have loved for this project to be my first priority, I admit it's been kind of hard to do that because I've had so many other projects and priorities going on in my life. I also admit it took me a while to do because I really wanted to make sure that they were put together with the best quality possible. And even though it was a lot of hard work, that does not change the fact that I had so much fun producing them. And as a fan of the Muppets, the whole point of reviewing all these movies was to get the chance to look back at all the theatrical achievements of the Muppets, and to of course get the chance to share my personal thoughts on them with you. And now, all that's left to do is to take a look at Muppets Most Wanted. Originally, I was thinking about maybe just doing like a short video that kind of summarizes my thoughts on the film, especially since I got to see some rough cuts of it last year so I could talk and compare the two, and then maybe do a longer one later, but I've been doing some thinking, and I've decided that I'm not going to put a review of it out. For now, at least. What was great about reviewing these films was that I had access to the movies and I was able to go back and watch them as many times as needed to get the material that I wanted. I don't quite have that privilege at the moment. So to avoid repeating myself in 2 separate reviews, I have decided to wait until the film is released on Blu-ray later this year, and then I will be able to put out a more detailed review of the movie. So I apologize to anyone who might have been looking forward to seeing something like that, but I just think that once I have my own copy, it's going to be a lot easier to cover everything I want to cover and maybe compare the new cut to what I saw last year. And it's just going to be a lot more detailed and everything, so I just think it's going to be better if we just wait. And with the film coming out this Friday, I'm going to let you off with this. You've heard my thoughts on the other 7 films, so for now, I want you guys to just go and enjoy Muppets Most Wanted. Take your friends or your kids to see it, because like I have said several times before, it really is a wonderful film. The story is brilliant, the music is spectacular, the humor is right up there. It's just going to be really hard to not enjoy it, and I think my detailed review will mean a lot more once you've had a chance to watch it. I am very, very grateful to my friend Ryan Doser, who gave me the opportunity to share all these reviews with you guys, and hopefully we'll get the chance to do more stuff together in the future, and I'd also love to do more stuff with my other fellow Muppet fans as well. And I also really want to thank all of you for watching and keeping up with my reviews as I've released them, because I can't tell you how much it's meant to me knowing that you've enjoyed them, and seeing your supportive comments and tweets and messages and everything, it's just really made me feel like I'm doing something right, and like all my hard work has actually paid off. So for anyone who's wondering, right now I do have a lot of projects in the mix. I'm going to be doing a puppet show with Swazzle this summer, and I'm going to be touring all over California again. And I also plan to do more stuff with my other channel, the Adorkable Vlog, so please feel free to follow that as well so you can keep up with my daily thoughts and other updates going on in my life. And who knows, I mean, maybe I'll get a chance to do more reviews on this channel as well. I won't lie, I'd love to do more reviews, but I would need to have more time and the right kind of funds for it to make that happen. And maybe it will eventually work out, we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But in the meantime, if you want to keep track of whatever it is I'm working on, feel free to follow my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All the links are in the description below. And if nothing sooner, I will definitely be back in a couple of months to give you guys my full review of Muppets Most Wanted. That's a promise. So with that said, thank you for watching. Go enjoy the new Muppet film. And I'll see you again real soon for the next review. Bye!